Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. On behalf of this host this evening, Colonel Matthew Mountcastle, Commander, 65th Air Base Group, welcome to tonight's celebration of the 78th birthday of the United States Air Force. I am Tech Sergeant Peyton Voicell from the 65th Air Base Squadron.
And I am Technical Sergeant Mason Morgeau from the 65th Air Base Squadron. Please stand for the arrival of the official party, followed by the national anthems of Portugal and the United States. During the national anthems, all military members should stand at the position of attention facing the flags.
Ladies and gentlemen, please take your seats. If you go across America or Portugal, one thing you learn is that stories mean a lot to people. The lessons they teach, the characters, they turn to legends. Let us tell you a story rooted in history.
Since the 15th century, the Azores has played an important role in transoceanic navigation, a port of call for ships engaged in trade between Europe, America, and India. The Azores are the gems of the Atlantic.
With the advent of airplanes, the role of Lajes was not diminished, and it continued to serve as a port call for wary travelers along the American-European air routes.
Since World War II, the United States recognized the unique strategic importance of the Azores as a staging point for air power. Portugal granted the United States a presence at Lajes, originally under British supervision until 1946, when Portugal allowed the United States to stay at Lajes following World War II. That was codified in a defense agreement in 1951. The original agreement has only been revised twice throughout history, once in 1983 and again in 1995.
Today, we celebrate 79 years of bilateral relationship with Portugal that stems from the 1995 Agreement on Cooperation and Defense. Lajes has continued to shine thanks to our relationship with our Portuguese counterparts. At this time, we would like to introduce our distinguished guests and leadership who will continue the Lajes legacy. Starting with our Portuguese Air Force leaders, this isn't a sightseeing excursion for them. Their achievements light up a scoreboard like a pinball machine. Since 2002, Air Base No. 4 has flown over 3,000 rescue missions and saved over 600 lives. They mean business all year long. Please put your hands together for Commander, Headquarters, Azores Air Zone, Brigadier General Francisco Dionisio.
Commander, Air Base Number 4, Colonel Joao Silva.
Commander, Air Base Number 4, Logistics Group, Lieutenant Colonel Gonzalo Cordoso.
Chief of Staff, Air Base Number 4, Major Pedro Ventura.
Commander, Air Traffic Control, Major Marco Silva.
Commander, Air Base Number 4, Maintenance Support Team, Captain Fernando Silva. Turning to our leadership for the United States, if there's a way to get that W, trust me, they will find it. Their style is anything but quiet. Some may say they are overconfident, a little full of themselves, but is it bragging if you can back it up? Please put your hands together for Commander, 65th Air Base Group, Colonel Matthew Mountcastle.
Deputy Commander, 65th Air Base Group, Lieutenant Colonel Andrew McPhee.
Senior Enlisted Leader, 65th Air Base Group, Chief Master Sergeant Christopher Hucks.
First Sergeant, 65th Air Base Group, Senior Master Sergeant Christina Howard.
Commander, 65th Air Base Squadron, Lieutenant Colonel Christina Globe.
Commander, 765th Air Base Squadron, Lieutenant Colonel Christopher Whitman.
Commander, 65th Logistics Readiness Squadron, Major Timothy Mike Stamper.
Principal Officer, United States Consulate, Ponta Delgada, Miss Rita Rico.
History rarely repeats itself, yet at Lajes, this team, this time, this moment has proven itself over and over again. Let's not overcomplicate this. Remember, these forces have been friends since World War II when the Air Force was still the Army Air Corps. They are a fast break, no huddle, all systems go, fine-tuned machine.
From the Berlin Airlift to Operation Desert Storm to Operation Midnight Hammer, Lajes has demonstrated its relevance as a continued strategic location ready for any contingency.
During the Berlin Airlift, Operation Vittles included over 3,000 cargo aircraft transiting Lajes Field en route to Germany, in addition to their maintenance and repair, demonstrating air power could provide a lifeline to people in need.
Lajes made history yet again in March 1949 when 4 KB-29 tankers staged from Lajes in the first aerial refueling for the Lucky Lady II, a B-50 that went on to be the first non-stop aerial refueled flight around the world.
In 1967, a rotational P-3 mission was established by the United States Navy to monitor Soviet submarine activity around the Azores. The sortie rates generated by the Navy were exceeding those of the Air Force during the late 1960s and early 1970s as Cold War tensions flared. The Department of Defense made plans to transfer U.S. military command to Lajes from the Air Force to the Navy in 1974. But before this change occurred, a significant event in the Middle East would have a profound impact on Lajes Field.
On 6 October 1973, Egypt and Syria launched a surprise attack on Israel. The Soviet Union provided military supplies to the attackers in what would become as the Yom Kippur War. President Richard Nixon agreed to help the Israelis as they defended their nation in the face of Soviet-backed aggression. Lajes served as a critical transit hub across the Atlantic.
During the initial 48 hours of Operation Nickelgrass, an unprecedented 136 landings and 88 departures were directed, managed, and supported by Lajes Field. C-141s and C-5s flew a distance of about 6,500 nautical miles, landing to refuel only at Lajes. The airlift lasted until 14 November 1973 and resulted in the delivery of 22,395 tons of cargo. Despite being closer to the fight at 1,700 nautical miles, the Soviet Union could only transport 15,000 tons in comparison.
The airlift had a twofold effect on the future of the U.S. Air Force. First, The Air Force modified the C-141 fleet for mid-air refueling and renewed interest in the C-5's aerial refueling capability. The second lesson confirmed the importance of the Air Force maintaining its basing facilities at Lajes. In January 1974, the Department of Defense reconsidered the U.S. Navy command at Lajes Field, leaving the base with the Air Force.
On 1 January 1980, an earthquake measuring 7.0 on the Richter scale struck Terceira Island. Damage to Lajes Field was minimal. However, there was extensive destruction to Portuguese communities throughout the island. Military personnel responded to the local crisis with food, shelter, equipment, and manpower. The 1605th Air Base Wing Crisis Action Team became the focus for disaster relief operations by all U.S. forces and a coordination point with Portuguese military and civil authorities. Teams of U.S. Air Force, Army, Navy, civilian, and dependent personnel were organized and dispatched into the communities hardest hit by the quake. These teams were engaged in clearing roads, digging through rubble, and helping Portuguese families move their belongings to protected shelters. The base set up the gymnasium as a reception point for displaced Portuguese and American families. Dining facilities went on a 24-hour schedule, feeding earthquakes victims and emergency relief volunteers. Temporary housing was provided on base in the dormitories.
The 1990s witnessed the abrupt end of the Soviet Union and the Cold War. The disruption in global balance of power allowed recently liberated nations to choose their own course of action. However, for some nations, this course led to disputes among neighbors and unrest among their own citizens. Without the need to counter the entirety of the Soviet Union, the U.S. military budget shrank. The U.S. military was faced with reducing its force and infrastructure, while at the same time answering the world's call for help.
The first such test of the 1990s was when Iraq invaded its neighboring country Kuwait on 2 August 1990. Immediately, the world took action and began positioning forces in Southwest Asia to stop this act of aggression in what became known as Operation Desert Shield. At one point during Operation Desert Shield, there was a maximum of 56 aircraft on the ramp, which included SAC, MAC, Guard, Reserve, Marine, Navy, and several fighter aircraft drop-ins. Despite having the airfield close to capacity, not one aircraft was refused landing or service. On 17 January 1991, the United States opened Operation Desert Storm with a massive bombing campaign against Iraqi targets. With the second largest fuel disbursement facility in the Air Force, Lajes pumped 5 times the normal amount of fuel. Fuels personnel issued over 40 million gallons of petroleum products without a major safety incident or delay in aircraft departures.
Since the Gulf War, Lajes has been involved in every airlift and bomber operation from Somalia, Bosnia, Rwanda, Liberia, Kosovo, Afghanistan, Libya, and Iran. However, it is important to remember that along the way, while Lajes continue to make history, not all of us have always returned from the battlefield. You may have noticed a small table at the front of the room. It is reserved to honor those who paid the ultimate sacrifice to defend our nation's freedom. Ladies and gentlemen, please rise. The table is round to show our everlasting concern for our missing men and women.
The tablecloth is white, symbolizing the purity of their motives when answering the call to duty.
The single red rose displayed in a vase reminds us of the life of each of the missing and the loved ones and the friends of these Americans who keep the faith, awaiting answers.
The vase is tied with a red ribbon, a symbol of our continued determination to account for our missing.
A slice of lemon on the red plate is to remind us of the bitter fate of those captured and missing in a foreign land.
A pinch of salt, symbolizing the tears endured by those missing and their families who seek answers. The glass, inverted, to symbolize their inability to share this evening's toast.
The chair is empty. They are missing. Please join us in a moment of silence. At this time, we invite Master Sergeant Jeremy Dwyer to deliver tonight's invocation.
Please bow your heads with me in a moment of prayer. Almighty God, we come before you tonight with hearts full of gratitude as we gather to celebrate the 78th birthday of the United States Air Force. For more than 7 decades, you have guided and sustained our airmen, granting them courage to fly, fight, and win, always in defense of freedom and the protection of peace. We pause this evening to honor that legacy and to give thanks to the men and women who have served and those who continue to serve with honor, integrity, and sacrifice. We give thanks for the partnership and friendship of our host nation, Portugal. For the many years, our nations have stood side by side, joined by shared values, mutual respect, and the common pursuit of peace. We are grateful for their presence with us tonight and for the enduring bond that strengthens both our people and our mission. We ask your blessings on this gathering. May this evening remind us of who we are and what we stand for, united in purpose, strengthened by perseverance, and resolved to face every challenge with courage and hope, as we remember the challenges and threats that lie ahead. We pray for wisdom to lead well, for resolve to endure faithfully, and for strength to prevail against adversity. Bless this fellowship. May it renew our unity as airmen, deepen our gratitude for those who have gone before us, and inspire us to carry forward the proud heritage of our air superiority into the future. For all this, we give you thanks, and we ask for your continued guidance upon our Air Force, our families, our allies, and our mission. In your name we pray. Amen.
Ladies and gentlemen, please remain standing and charge your glasses for our toast, ensuring you have 1 glass charged with water.
We would now like to propose a few toasts. Please refer to the screens for the appropriate responses. Colonel Mountcastle, sir, would you do us the honor of proposing the first toast?
I will. To the flag of the United States of America.
To the colors!
To the Commander-in-Chief, the President of the United States.
To the President!
To the Chief of Staff of the Air Force.
To the Chief!
To the Chief Master Sergeant of the Air Force.
To the Chief!
To the Chief of Space Force Operations.
To the Chief!
To the Chief Master Sergeant of the Space Force.
To the Chief!
To our allies and partners.
To our allies and partners.
To our comrades killed in action, missing in action, or prisoners of war.
It is now time to enjoy the wonderful dinner prepared by Terceira del Mar, beginning with our head table, Master Sergeant Kevin Pedraza. We'll walk around the room notifying tables that they may join the buffet line and continue working their way around the room. We ask that you please stay seated until your table is dismissed.
Security forces. Right down the middle.
As the cake slices go out, we would also at this time like to welcome Colonel Mountcastle to share his wisdom with us for this evening.
It's very generous of you to think you're getting wisdom from me, but okay. So good evening, and thank you for having me tonight. It's really, look, when I was an 18-year-old kid and I joined up to the United States Air Force Academy, and even when I graduated, never did I think like I'd be doing this. So this is pretty cool. So it is absolutely an honor to be your guest speaker. But it's more of an honor to celebrate the birth of the Air Force and the 78th birthday of the United States Air Force here in Portugal, on the island of Terceira, with my brothers and sisters in the armed services from Portugal and the United States, and your spouses. Let's give it up for the spouses tonight. I dearly miss my spouse. This is being recorded. And I know who does the hard work around here. And so thank you so much for your commitment to your service member. We all serve proudly together, member and spouse, at Air Base 4 in the pursuit of freedom. Freedom through air power is tonight's topic. This is a bit of a lecture. I might have taken liberties with what I learned on the internet. So I apologize in advance for anything that you find questionable in my analysis of Portuguese and American history. That's apology in advance. Okay. I would particularly like to welcome the commander of the headquarters Azores Air Zone, Brigadier General Seeker Dionisio, and his lovely wife, Senora Alicia Dacio. I also extend a special welcome to the commander of Air Base 4, everybody's favorite Colonel João Silva. I extend a special welcome to the principal director of the United States Consulate Ponce Delgado at San Miguel, Miss Rita Rico. We like to think we were here first, but in fact, Miss Rico fulfills a legacy of service by the United States and the Azores, operating the longest operating consulate in America, dating back to 1795 and before, according to our website. Welcome to the Portuguese and American commanders here and the senior enlisted leaders, with, of course, a shout out to everyone's chief, our chief, the senior enlisted leader of the 65th Air Base Group, Chief Master Sergeant Chris Hux. And of course, a warm welcome to everyone's first sergeant, Senior Master Sergeant Christine Howard. Where are you at? Yeah. I've noticed a consistent trend. She gets the loudest cheer, which means she's doing a great job taking care of people. I appreciate that. Finally, let me extend my gratitude to the Air Force Ball Committee, led by Senior Master Sergeant Pedraza. Where are you at? And Captain Orlando Medina Caraballo. Lando's done double duty. He was pretty much in charge of the change of command ceremony and getting me here, and he's done great work for Team Lajes. I'd also like to praise our Masters of Ceremonies this evening, Tech Sergeant Vosel and Tech Sergeant Morgeau. You guys have absolutely done a wonderful job. Now, I began writing this speech with a tool you might have heard of. It was pretty secret, like we went to the wing offsite and they briefed us about it, and they're like, let me tell you, you colonels and chiefs, you got to learn about this thing. It's a secret executive power called ChatGPT. I asked for a quick speech on the birthday of the 78th birthday of the Air Force, and then I asked for a speech that shows appreciation before both the Portuguese and the United States Air Force. And then I asked it for like one more thing. I said, can you help me with a joke? And this is the joke it gave me. The Air Force is the one branch of service where you can get high and still rely on really good ground support. I'm a dad. I don't get it. I told ChatGPT I did not understand the joke. ChatGPT promptly told me I had exhausted all of my free chats and it was time for a subscription. I'm a father of 3 girls with a lovely wife. One is in college, one's going to college soon. One plays an excessive amount of club volleyball. This is all way too expensive. She will now get a free speech written by me. I should warn you, I did not tell the ball committee I studied philosophy in college. And so I would begin with a big philosophical question. So what is the Air Force? I immediately recognized perhaps not everybody enjoyed philosophy class. I should just give you the answer. So in the sense, the Air Force is what we say it is. It is planes and satellites. There's a Space Force now. It is planes. Well, we can go on and on. I'd offer you tonight to consider that those are mere things. The Air Force, at the end of the day, is us. It is stronger when we are united on a definition, and the organization tends to perform better, project power, unite communities. Let's make it our working definition tonight. So for tonight, let us agree the Air Force is us, and we are warriors. Warriors protect. I have a practical exercise for you now, crowd participation. I want total buy-in. Tonight is about building team and unity. I want you to turn to the person next to you. Simply tell them, I'm a warrior, I will protect you. Everyone can participate. I'm a warrior, I can protect you. Eu sou guerreiro, eu vou te proteger. Eu sou guerreiro, eu vou te proteger. Substitute warrior if you need to. Mom, dad, husband, wife, diplomat. I am a warrior. I will protect you. All right. We good? Good. All right. Good job. I'm impressed. You guys really took to that. Thank you. I didn't know how that was going to go. At the end of the day, the Air Force is us, and we are warriors. In uniform, as spouses, as family members. And today we're celebrating us. We're honoring the Air Force we are today, the Air Force we promise to be tomorrow, and commemorating the Air Force that came before us. The Air Force we inherited was built by brave and hardworking men and women who were warriors. They worked for the cause we work for today. President Truman remarked on Air Force Day in 1947 the following about air power. I remind all of our citizens that the air power of the nation is essential to the preservation of our liberty, and that the continued development of the science of air transportation is vital to the trade and commerce of a peaceful world. Now, our predecessors shared with the citizens of their nation some simple and universal human yearnings, like the ability to make the world better for the generation that comes after them, and really at the end of the day, freedom. Air power has a funny relationship with freedom. Come to an island, and you start to feel it really quick. The quickest way to or from an airline or an island in our modern world is indeed air power. It is clear to me that perhaps President Truman spent some time in the Azores. I don't know. The islands can get small, and we can certainly talk a lot about air transportation. We did that today with our congressional delegation. They asked exactly how many flights are in and out of here each day, because it came apparent to them, and Major Silva just nailed the answer, of course. It came apparent to them that perhaps these are precious things. Air power is indeed precious. For centuries, Azorians have had to face uncertainties about their protection as the wars of Europe's past posed threats to the islands. The Portuguese crown, in fact, retreated here from Lisbon twice and made a temporary capital of the empire right here in the city of Angra. You can go to Angra City Hall and see the flag of the empire here in a in a wooden case. America's war for independence from the Britain even extended all the way out to the Azores. According to the consulate website, in 1777, the Continental Navy of the United States sloop named Independence took 3 British prizes, history recorded, off the coast of the Azores. Many people know about last week's pilgrimage activity to Terceira on the west coast of Terceira. I did it myself, and I can attest it is indeed a remarkable experience. As an aside, I had a little bit of help. I want to offer some quick travel advice here. Taking the Northern Island coastal route for the pilgrimage from Praia is about 9 hours with stops for wine, water, and sangria. At the end, I need to highlight for safety that the Northeast Coastal Road was indeed closed by an earthquake 3 years ago. Google Maps does not know this. This was not in my in-doc brief. But some nice kids that could speak English told me this. And so if you, like me, discover this too late, you then have to climb over the mountain starting at hour 7. But don't worry, I'm a warrior. I will protect you. I may or may not have reached out to my family and friends and told them my last known location. Many people do not know the pilgrimage, the origins of the pilgrimage to Terceira. To us Americans on base, Public Affairs sends out a warning and says, hey, watch out for pedestrians on the road this weekend as you go to the golf course. But it is indeed of a spiritual nature. It commemorates the vigil of prayer for the protection of the islands, which were relatively defenseless during a war that raged between England, France, and Spain. It is a prayer from a place of, again, those human yearnings for an enduring peace and freedom. In 1764, before the Revolutionary War, before America was a country, Portugal had been a country for many years, and it was an ally of Britain since the Treaty of Windsor in 1386. And they faced a war between France and Spain and Great Britain. Then the Marquis of Pombal held great power in Portugal, having led the reconstruction and remaking of Lisbon following a devastating earthquake in 1755. According to recorded stories, the Marquis ordered the fortifications of the Azores, in particular Terceira, that was virtually defenseless in this war. The delegation came to the island and turned to the religious icon of Our Lady of Miracles in Terceira with a request for protection. They promised that if the island did not suffer any attack from the enemy, they would organize an annual fest in honor of Our Lady of Miracles. I'm not sure what the readiness sought by the Marquis, or if the delegation did any actual work of fortification. The force protection measures taken as a result of their visit are unclear from my initial research. However, the island peace was preserved through that war, and that fest continues to that day. So I think that's a great outcome. But, well, where's this going? Well, today's modern history of the Azores as a strategic location stems back to at least 80 years, and it's born out of that Portuguese and British alliance from 1386. That treaty was leaned on by Churchill in the 1940s to negotiate British access to Lajes Field with the Portuguese leaders at the time. The dynamic had changed by the 1940s. Naval and air power modernized, and a little more than the help of Our Lady of Miracles on Portugal's left flank was needed to pursue the problem of the Nazis during World War II in the Atlantic. German U-boats had generally left Terceira and the Azores alone, but they sank over 5 million tons of Allied shipping in 1942 in the dreaded Azores Gap, hindering America's effort to aid the Allied cause and deploy to Europe to stop the Nazis and the Axis powers. Freedom was at risk, that universal human yearning. The Azores was the connector, and air power was the new enabler. In 1943, the United Kingdom Royal Air Force began flying American-made B-17s after laying down American steel Martian mats to turn the tide in the Atlantic. They started flying in October 1943. I can only imagine what the war planning looked like, given the windy weather that starts here in October. It probably took a lot of courage for that British weather officer to stand up and brief kicking off an air campaign in the Azores in the fall and heading into the winter. I can only imagine that there was a Portuguese weather officer ally standing right next to him, giving him the courage to say, "No, the winds are not bad today. This is nothing." Air power won the day. The Navy would probably argue with me and say they did something about it too. But here we are on the Air Force birthday. So air power won the day. The shipping losses were down to only 100,000 tons from October through December in 1943. From Lajes Field, 53 U-boats were sunk. The Nazis stopped coming around, and the scourge of the Azores Gap was over. America's Army Air Corps started aircraft ferrying activity shortly thereafter. Allies aiming to preserve their mutual freedom united. Air power enabled maritime lines of communication to securely bring American war material and soldiers to the aid of Europe. Lest we forget, when the Soviets blockaded Berlin, the Berlin airlift kicked off. We always think this is a big Ramstein thing. Indeed it is. But it was Lajes Field that passed through 3,000 aircraft over the air to save Western Berlin. They used Ramstein too. Today in Angra and all throughout the Azores, air power continues to perform the task that President Truman sought all along. First and foremost, he knew air power unlocks the preservation of our liberty. United together, we must and we will preserve and pursue our enduring peace. Then we can all enjoy air power as it unlocks the trade and commerce of a peaceful world, uniting families across nations and bringing pilgrims here in their hope of peace and freedom at Terceira. So here's a toast to the United States Air Force and to the Portuguese Air Force. We are warriors, we will protect. Freedom is our cause. Thanks again to the team for a great evening, and enjoy your evening.
Thank you, Colonel Mountcastle. How about another round of applause for our guest speaker tonight? That is a tough act to follow. However, we do get to enter the fun part of the evening where we get to dance. Hey, Voicel, do you know how many dancers it takes to change a light bulb?
No. How many?
5, 6, 7, 8. Do you know what a taco's favorite type of dance is?
No.
Salsa!
Or Joe, these are bad.
What on earth are you doing?
I'm going to go dance because I can't stand to hear another one of those dance jokes.
Ooh, I have other jokes. Did you know a lot of people speak Portuguese in the world?
Oh, yeah. How many?
A Brazilian. Thank you all. That concludes the official ceremony. Please enjoy the dance.